Hey guys, it's Fifth Lauren, also known as 944. Don't forget Thorin's YouTube channel.
Official details for the B-Site codenamed project will be forthcoming. Look for them next week. But I want to talk right now about what I call the competitive incentives that have been built into the league. These are elements of the league designed to ensure the teams that compete in the league invest their effort into trying to make the league the best they can, their resources that they currently have, players, their brands, time, and more importantly, their money into making this, both their teams, the league, and the entertainment product side of this, all it can be, and quite frankly, like no other league in history, and especially with the particular incentives that we've put in. So let's start with one that obviously has been seen a couple of years into the past at esports, which is the concept of having to buy in if you're one of the franchise teams. Now, obviously, the Overwatch League does it, but that was 20 million, that was up to 30 million, that was sometimes more. LCS did it, that's 10 million a pop. This is $2 million, a much more reasonable figure, and one at which point in time you don't have to make insane revenue before people start sharing and actually making back that money in a meaningful way, and one day perhaps making a profit. So one of the key things about this $2 million buy-in for, I think it was 10 of the 12 teams, is it ensures that the teams themselves aren't fly-by-night, and the league isn't fly-by-night. We're not just going to do this for 1 year and then shut the whole project down. The concept here is that this will last many, many years, and that since the business model, the product makes sense, its success can be judged relative to each year and then the bigger picture. So what it means, crucially, and this is an angle people don't think about, is that means a team won't just be in B-Site and then just disappear off. Like, everyone was loving to talk, and correctly so, about how for ESL Pro League, they've cut a load of those slots, and it's so unfair that the league just removes you. No one ever talks about what happens if a team just bails on the league. Like, what if a team just decides, you know what, I'm just sick of playing the EPL, in fact, I'm going to go to your main rival, and as a result, EPL has a storyline thread from the previous season that they've put money, time, resources into. They've used production resources for that. And then all of a sudden, that's just gone. And even worse, they have to pretend like that team was never there. I mean, we won't do that for B-Side. I'll never do that. But that is unfortunately the ESL approach, where you somewhat pretend the others don't exist sometimes. This is an things from behind the scenes and notes I've been given when I worked on content. So what about if last season, it didn't happen because Mouse Sports won, but imagine if Astralis, the team that have won a fucking billion tournaments over the last few years. Imagine if they'd won ESL Pro League like they did in 2018, and then they'd actually come over to the B-Site project, and so EPL had to start for season 11 and pretend like they weren't missing the reigning champion, and that it's totally fine that they've got some sort of weird gap in the league and that everyone else is trying to sort of fight for the belt when there's no champion to defeat to get it. That would be whack, right? So it makes sense to share revenue when people have bought into the project. They've showed they believe in it, they're willing to put their money on the line, and therefore they get more of the revenue. Whereas it makes total sense to me that if you're an EPL and you're there to get money, yeah, guess what? You're never going to get the same share if you're a player for your team. I mean, you can go, I know it was very complicated. The mathematics on the ESL side were ridiculous, and a lot of those terms would not be understood by even some industry professionals. I had to have some real economics professionals explain it to me. The percentages break down way worse in EPL than they do in B-Side. I can say that as a fact. So another factor as to why you want a buy-in, you want this initial threshold, is now you can vet who joins your league as a partner. You can still always qualify through the 2 open qualification slots, but now you don't have to let in some scumbag org who's good enough to qualify in terms of just the general sense, and now they're sharing the revenue and they're fucking things up. And no, you don't want someone like that crazy org. The ones who I'd heard all sorts of shady stories behind the scenes, and even themselves, in a weird, fucked up, roundabout way, trying to do mental gymnastics, had to admit that they owed people money. Or how about that denial team that just literally, they kept lying, like, I'm not the CEO anymore, what, is he not the CEO? And then just stole fucking people's money and wouldn't pay it back, or rather the money that they owed people. You don't have to let these teams be a part of the scene. You can let the players come up and they can be bought to the legit orgs. You don't have to let scumbags in at the table, though. You can have the proven people. Then obviously another competitive incentive is the fines that we put in place. So every month that your team is not in the top 20 in the world, you get a $100,000 fine levied against you that you must pay. Now, people might say, that's it though. You said it there, Thorin. I've ruled, sorry, dear. You didn't say what ranking. And then people start getting all conspiracy, think, ooh, they're going to design the ranking to make you pay the fine. Oh, they'll just make a ranking that none of them are ever not top 20. I'll tell you right now, based on all I know about what the ranking will be, a whole bunch of the teams that are in the league right now are not top 20 at the moment and will be from that first month paying the $100,000 fine. And that is entirely the point of how we designed this system, because there isn't anything sinister hidden here. Like, the concept here is the reason we haven't announced the ranking yet is we don't know yet what the actual ranking will be, because we want it to be potentially a ranking better than any that currently exists. Like, the HLTV ranking, I think is perfectly fine. If we didn't have a choice and backs were against the wall, I'd say just use that. I would never say use mine, because just one person decides all of it. But one thing I actually do think is interesting is what we're trying to do at the moment behind the scenes, again, none of this has officially been announced, is to work with the CSPPA, the Players Union, Professional Players Association, and hopefully either get them to commission them with someone else to create a ranking that therefore the pros are on board with, or tweaks it in some ways that they think's more beneficial. Not our players, all the pro players, including the pro players that are in EPL, or have something like a hybrid between HLTVs and the CSPPA and make that. But the key concept is it needs to be independent, so that we don't control it, we don't influence it, because we actually, this is what people are missing. This isn't a trick to get us the 100,000, because us is the teams, is the league. That's the whole point. It's a way to hold every other team accountable in the league, that they have to make their rosters good. So if your roster's amazing and theirs isn't, you don't have to just sit around going, this guy's fucking it up for everyone. You know, either he's having a pay, which goes into all the league, or he's got the fire under his ass to go out and get a team, and he has to do it in a scenario that doesn't just matter to us, it matters to everyone who cares about Counter-Strike. These are the top 20 teams. So to me, if you want to talk about rigging it, go and look at what ESL proposed in their term sheet, where they literally said you would have to, all the invites and ranking in their league and whether you got Rev was based on their ranking system that they were going to design. It was going to be like an ESEA ranking system. And that literally you wouldn't be allowed, you would be actually prohibited from mentioning HLTVs. And also you publicly must mention your aspirations to climb in this particular ranking that ESL were going to create themselves. That's how you rig the fucking game. We're not trying to do that. We're securing our product. We're trying to put it independent and make it so the whole world can see what's going on. And then we hold ourselves to that standard. That's what it's actually called, to be a fucking man in this world and to aspire to ideals, because you want to make a better place for yourself and the rest of the people who are in the space. So I hope personally it'll be a conjunction between HLTV and CSPP. I think that would be the best approach. Get the players happy, get the people who've already done a good ranking most people enjoy. I think that would be a great way to do it. Then consider these fines mean if you do badly every single month of a year, for the whole 12 months you don't have a top 20 team, not only will that suck in the league, it's going to suck for your pocketbook, mate, because then you will have to pay $1.2 million just in fines, just because you don't have a good enough team. Now, I can tell you right now, anyone who thinks, well, maybe they can just swallow that. No, there aren't team orgs out there who can just swallow $1.2 million extra costs that they hadn't planned for a year, and then going into the next year knowing they've got more fans coming. These teams won't idle. They know coming into the league there's no point doing it unless you can A, pay these fines, but B, more importantly, you don't plan to pay the fines. You plan to take that money, because here's what you're not thinking about. If I know I'm going to pay 1.2 million if my team isn't good enough, why don't I just take 1.2 million, go buy a sick player, go buy a couple of sick players, buy a sick upcoming lineup, make a bid with other money as well, get ahead of 2 years worth of fines and buy a mega team from some other org. Makes perfect sense, right? So you don't make anywhere near $1.2 million from marketing, from sponsorship for your CSGO teams. There is no fun team, depending on who you might have heard was in the league, that can somehow make the money off the market and the t-shirts and the media stuff, that they can then swallow the 1.2 million and make any revenue whatsoever. They're just going to lose all that. It's going to all be costs, etc. So it puts a fire under their ass to sign new players or sign an entirely new lineup if your team isn't good enough, quite frankly. Then consider, since the teams in the league are owners of the league, they understand that they don't make money from the actual play in the server. Most pro players don't, by the way. They're still totally delusional about how much events make and how much their orgs make. So the teams know we've got to make more money beyond even just the game being brilliant inside the server. They understand the entertainment product has to succeed, and that has to be something you could sell one day and have broadcast rights to and has its own inherent value and fills the calendar and is about more than just the matches. So they're on board with that. So therefore, we will get more access to players than any other league ever had before, because it didn't benefit the org was that the TO worked with the players on their content. There's also one less hungry diner at the dinner table of sharing and chopping up all the rev / in the future the profit, right? Because the same team that needs his cut is also part of the league, which really is only taking the cut largely, quite frankly, just to run the league. That's it. ESL wants to make money as a company themselves, then the teams want to make their money as a cut, and then the players want to make their cut. We've only really got the teams, the players, and then the league is very minimal because it is the teams. You see the concept of why this can work and why it can even work, actually. In theory, that's why you could have less revenue for this league and people can get more money, they can get a better share. So some of the knock-on effects of this, if you put it all together, is no matter who the league starts with in terms of teams, there is serious pressure on the teams who are involved to get better and to maintain a high level. Because from your initial investment, you've already invested $2 million, you're not just going to walk away from that. The monthly fines, this is getting bad if I'm not a good enough team. I have constant pressure. I have a constant reason to be looking at my roster and asking, is it good enough now? Will it be good enough in the future? And make sure it is always top 20. Because if we have 10 top 20 teams in the world from an independent ranking, then we're doing our jobs as a league product, what we're putting inside the server. Then on the entertainment side, aided by the teams and players who are more open to it, they have to be. It's part of what's going to make them succeed and make millions in the future. This is what will make us the best product overall. I mean, we've already got the best group of talent. Just go look who we've announced already. That war is over. And quite frankly, in the future, I intend to grab some of the other really good tier 1 talents that I appreciate. There are no closed doors here or industry politics keeping you out or people getting offended that you turned down the offer or we couldn't come to a particular deal. No, if you're the best in a year from now, I'll come get you and you'll be in this league soon enough. Then you consider teams now also have the impetus to sign good players. This is what people aren't thinking about from the EPL teams. They have more impetus to sign those players from the EPL teams than the EPL teams do to keep those players because they're all in a tough spot too. They're losing money. They have to sell if the deal makes sense. So it doesn't matter if, at this point in time, pick 2 of the top 5 teams in the world who you've heard are going to be in EPL. Doesn't matter if those teams are in EPL now, if later in the year their star player comes over to a B-side team, if next year their entire team's in a B-side org, if a whole bunch of their players get spread to the fans of the earth. Maybe one goes to this team, one goes to this team, one goes to this team. If we're talking $1 million buyouts, that's now doable. Likewise, if a team on the rise starts to get good and they're not in EPL yet because it's going to be a franchise league with only a couple of open slots, someone will just buy the whole team quickly enough rather than waiting around forever and letting negotiations go forever. Think about it. When you heard it was $3 million to buy the entire EG roster last year, that doesn't sound so crazy if you've already bought into a league for $2 million and you might have to pay $1 million in fines. That's already the $3 million right there. Why not just get ahead of it? Why not just go and buy the team now at that point in time? Likewise, so many brilliant deals and teams. So many big name teams would be even better. We'd contend for championships right now if they'd have been able to manage the buyouts of players they wanted in their teams, but it couldn't happen. They got blocked or they got delayed or they just never happened outright because of the prices. Think about this. Am I going to sit for 3 months negotiating, trying to get this buyout down 300,000 if over the 3 months I have to pay 300,000 in fines? I may as well just pay it now and just get the player now and get way ahead of the game and have stop having to pay these fucking fines and get my team better right this point. So there are the whole point of these competitive incentives is to make teams act in their own self-interest, which will then make the collective interest of the league and the overall product the best it can possibly be. This video was kindly supported by Alexander Rao, Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer, Dane Cuskley, Dean Tanglis, Chi Mao, JDubs, NateDOhDoubleG, Peter the Feeder, Tobias Bernasconi, and a special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion and Mohammed, Alabdul, Razzaq. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you'd like to ask me a question in my monthly Patreon AMA. Would you like teasers on upcoming content that I'm doing? Maybe you want to take part in a discussion directly with me? Well, if so, then put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today at the Patreon link in the description below.